This is a 2021 Mercedes CLA. This is the coupe four-door variant. Now, think of this as an A-class saloon that's had a bit of Botox. It's just a stylish option, and it's something that is increasingly popular here in the UK. They're pretty well equipped and come with a plethora of combustion engine options. You have a plug-in hybrid, you've got a petrol, and some frugal and more refined diesel options than Mercedes have offered before. And if this is a car that you consider buying with your own money, then I would highly recommend doing it through our sponsor, Players Cars Premium Limited, which is where this car was sourced and purchased from. Now, if you're sick of buying cars through dealerships and going through all those pesky emails and all that kind of thing, you want a more modern experience, Players Cars have got you covered, because you can contact them 24/7 by WhatsApp or Instagram DM, which made purchasing my Tesla really easy as well. It's so much easier rather than having to faff about waiting for emails, just to be able to text someone and get some real responses. So refreshing. And also, they can source whatever car you want. So if they don't have one in stock, then they'll be able to find one exactly the spec you're after. I asked for a Tesla with black paint and white interior, quite a rare option. They found it for me within a few days. Their Google and Trustpilot reviews don't lie, but what's more, they are actually specialists in CLA Mercs. So if you come here because you're thinking of getting one of these, they sell more than 20 of these a month on average. So if you're looking for a really super easy and seamless car buying experience, I would highly recommend Players Cars Premium. There'll be links in the description below to connect with them directly on WhatsApp or Instagram DMs. I've seen these go for as little as £300 a month on finance, and it's a lot of car for the money, and you can get pretty much whatever colour and spec you want. So with that all out of the way, let's crack on and show you around this car. So then, having a look around the CLA, these are very popular here for their styling, and I think their styling alone. They have had a facelift since this model. This is a 2021 model, although bear in mind the 18-inch alloys on this one have been refurbished in black. They're normally like a sort of polished grey design. It's effectively a Mercedes A-Class inside, and the drivetrain options are also the same. And you can get an A-Class saloon here in the UK as well, but this one is more of a kind of nipped and tucked version to make it look a little bit sleeker, with this kind of swooping roofline at the back that goes down into more of a kind of moulded rear design here. There is also a shooting brake version of this, so this obviously being the coupe, but you can get a sort of estate coupe variant, which is quite interesting. So there's quite a lot of options out there for whatever you might need. In terms of the specifications and options available, I'm not going to go too in depth with the engines and stuff like that, because there is so much to choose from, but I'll pop them on screen for you. But effectively, you can get either 1.3 or 2 litre petrol options, 1.3 plug-in hybrid, or 1.5 or 2 litre diesel options, which come with either a 6-speed manual, a 7-speed dual clutch, or 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmissions. Most of them are front-wheel drive, unless they're marketed as 4MATIC, in which case those ones are all-wheel drive, but that's pretty much reserved for the higher end cars and also the AMG ones. And power ranges from 134 horsepower on the base CLA 180, which does 0 to 60 in around 9.4 seconds, up to the CLA 45S, which is the hottest version, with 420 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, and loads of choices in between. So plenty to choose from, no matter what sort of engine and power output you're after. The diesel engines are particularly good as well. They're very frugal, achieving between 50 and 60 mpg minimum, and also more refined than Mercedes diesels of past. This one that I've got here today is a CLA 200, so it's the sort of second from base model, and it's a 1.3 litre turbo with 161 horsepower. Spec is good as standard too. Comes standard with 18-inch alloys, reversing cam, LED lights, drive mode select, 2 7-inch driver's displays, leather sports seats, cruise control, Apple CarPlay, and active braking assist and active cruise control and stuff like that. So pretty well equipped to standard. Premium models get keyless entry, upgraded sound system, and 64 colour ambient lighting, augmented reality nav, and dual 10.25-inch displays. Personally, I would say that is the model to go for. I definitely wouldn't say the base model AMG line is worth having, just because of the really small screens inside. This one that I've got here is a Premium Plus, which has upgraded multi-beam LED headlights, panoramic roof, electric seats, and traffic sign assist. So a few extra luxuries that make it a nicer car overall, but not necessarily something that you have to spring for. I really like the front end design on these ones, and you've got these multi-beam LED lights on this one being the Premium Plus, so you can see there's an inscription of that in there. Apologies for the bugs, but yeah, I do also like the Mercedes grille with the sensors built in, mesh design, which is really nice. It's just a really sleek package, and I think the styling is what really draws people to these. But at the same time, I would say that the A-Class hatch is just as good looking, if not a little bit more practical. Obviously, it's not as long, but it's got the hatchback, so it might not have as much space overall as this one, but I think you're going to get an easier to live with car with a normal A-Class, but this one definitely looks prettier. At the back, you do have a little bit of exhaust fakery, so you can see there, there's kind of like these extra holes in the bumper and diffuser, which kind of looks okay. I'm not normally a fan of that sort of thing, but it looks all right. It does the trick. And then you've got the LED rear lights as well, which I'll insert some clips of. I guess the main thing you can compare it to in terms of size is a BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe. So stepping inside, then this one does have keyless entry. Nice satisfying action from the handle there. And of course you've got your typical Mercedes-Benz paneling, so you've got your kind of aluminium finish on the door here, as well as your seat controls. I do believe that seat controls on the door is the wrong place to have them, but it's a Merc thing. You've got your window switches and all that there, and you've got ample space for a bottle with a nice little divider, and you've also got a trunk release there as well. It is quite a step to get into the car, but you do have these nice sill plates here, and you can see the nice metallic flake in the paint there as well. And you do have sports seats in all of the options across the AMG line cars. These can come either in this black, you can also get a black and red two-tone, or you can get brown, which I think looks quite good. And of course they do have your typical Mercedes thigh extensions as well, which are spring loaded, which I do think provide a nice bit of extra support on long journeys. One thing I would say about the seats, they are quite firm, so longer journeys you might struggle a little bit. But the Mercedes leather also I'm not a massive fan of. It's quite a thick grain, quite a rough leather, but this is a very, very stylish interior, and this is what Merc do the best, is a little bit of pizzazz. So let's jump in. So you can see straight away we are greeted with a really nice steering wheel, which has these touch controls on. So you've got these little touch points which allow you to control certain things on the display. So I can control this middle display with this touch point, so I can go up and go over to the home screen, and you can see all of the different parts of that, control it from here, which is nice. You also have the option to control that from this touchpad down here. So again, you can see that moving that around does that on the touchpad, and it is also touch screen. So you've got 3 different input methods, which I do really like. I think more cars should implement this rather than just having big touch screens. I really like that that's available, and it's not too fussy of a layout either, to be honest. You've got this little like wrist to sort of rest your hand on while you're doing it, while you're driving, which works really well. And you also have buttons, shortcuts here for your parking cameras, your drive modes, a shortcut button for that you can program, which is like in the sort of Korean cars, a volume wheel. You've also got shortcuts to your navigation and things like that. And you do also have your drive mode select just here on a toggle, which is a really good way of doing it. So yeah, nice layout. You do also have some plastic paddles on the back, which are not quite as satisfying as you might expect looking at them, but they do the trick. And you also do have as well in here your cruise control on the steering wheel. I just think it looks really nice aesthetically though. Looking around the cabin, you also have some contrast stitching that runs across the top of the dash, and you've got this aluminium section here. You do have piano black in here, but it's not excessive. I think you've got a nice bit in the middle here. I think this bit is a bit of a letdown just because it's very fingerprinty, but it could be a lot worse. I just think it's something you need to keep on top of, especially if you've got this section shut, because as you can see, this is going to be a nightmare to keep clean. But again, it does look good in my opinion, and this is normally just kept open for your charging and also your cup holders as well. I do love that there are physical climate controls. You can literally toggle these switches, and you've got buttons here for it as well. They're not as satisfying as the ones in something like an Audi, but they do have a click to them, and they do have indicator lights on. And I'm very glad that this function row is here, because a lot of cars have done away with these physical controls completely now, and you can see that they are very nicely laid out. So massive plus for the Merc there. Ambient lighting you can't see right now, but it is very comprehensive across all of the interior and the vents as well. I'll insert some clips of that because it's very impressive, and 64 colors as long as you go for the Premium or the Premium Plus. A bigger glove box than you might see on some other cars of this class, which is always nice. And I do like the dividers for the bottles in the doors, and everything kind of feels pretty well damped in here, I would say. It's not as nice quality though as an Audi. Over to the right you have a parking brake, and you also have your controls for your lighting, and then you have your gear select on a stalk on the dash, so down for drive, up for reverse, and in for park. As for this infotainment system, it is pretty good. Like I said, you've got a few ways to control it, and you do have like the car settings, vehicle info and stuff like that. I do like the graphics, and it is very responsive. Like I really like the way this is all laid out and the way that it looks. As you can see, it is a bit reflective, but this is kind of an exaggerated position. And you also have different themes here as well based on your drive modes, and of course you do have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and navigation as well. So you've got your nav built in, and that's again all quite responsive. It works pretty well, but you would just typically use your phone plugged in. And then as for this display in the middle here, you do also have a few different themes to go with. So it's in the sport mode at the moment, but you can change it. It's easy to navigate thanks to the sort of system here. It's a bit like an old BlackBerry where you've got like that little touch capacitive sensor. Personally, I really like it. Some people say they think it's a bit fiddly, but for me, I think it's probably one of the most ideal ways of navigating this display because it just feels so natural. For example, you can get your navigation up on the screen here, so you can get your maps in the center. So on the right hand side here as well, you can change this from a rev counter to like a consumption meter here, or you can also choose like eco display. You can have your maps in a little globe. Quite a lot, even a G-force meter there, which is cool. So there's a lot of customization to choose from. It's very similar to the Volkswagen Audi group stuff. I don't think this is quite as good as that, but I prefer this to Volkswagen's newer system, and the way you control it is super easy. So I would say this is one of the best on the market. So yeah, nice place to be, nice place to sit, and I think at night, especially with the ambient lighting, it makes such a difference. And I am really pleased with the way that the Mercedes MBUX system works. You've got voice assistant on here as well. Forgot to mention, you do also have quite a large center storage area in here, including 2 USB-Cs for charging. Stepping into the back, things are a little less spacious, as you can imagine, and these sports bucket seats also have this really scratchy, nasty plastic on the back, which is a bit disappointing. That's just something that you need to bear in mind with the Merc, is that it really does look very flash, but the material quality isn't quite up there with the equivalent Audi or BMW necessarily. You do also have the sports style seats in the back, which is quite cool, and you do have this center armrest that you can pull down, which does have integrated pop-out cup holders, which I think are quite nicely designed. You do have ISOFIX points back here as well, which are the nice sturdy robust kind with the plastics housing, so if you're putting a baby seat back here, super practical. However, as you can see, the covers have been lost in this car, so they are the ones that you can pop off and lose accidentally. I definitely wouldn't want a middle passenger in here either, because look at the size of that transmission hump in the middle. It's not going to be practical to sit in the middle as an adult, and it is a very narrow car as well. So 2 passengers back here, fine. 3, not so much. So climbing into the back here, of course, rear occupancy space is not going to be the strong point in a coupe style car like this. So I've got this set up in 6-foot driving position for myself, and I can fit in here, but as you can see, not a lot of thigh support, and it would be uncomfortable on a longer journey. What's more, these seat backs being hard plastic isn't particularly inviting either. But you know, if this was moved forward a little bit, I would have some more space back here like you do on this one, and it's not the worst, but I'm definitely at the limit for headspace as well. Like where the roofline swoops backwards, I can fit in here, but I can feel my hair just slowly bristling the top of the roof line in here, which is a bit of a shame, but it's to be expected in a car of this shape. It's just a sacrifice you make for the sportier styling. Smaller children though, should be fine back here. Something else I didn't mention is because you do have that true coupe aesthetic, you do have the pillarless windows both front and back, which I think makes a nice difference. It does, however, create a little bit of an extra blind spot. You do have quite a large C pillar on this car, and you do have also quite a large B pillar, as you can see. The pan roof definitely does make a nice difference as well to how light and airy the cabin looks and feels in here. So the boot then, it opens through flipping the Mercedes badge, and it's got a nice easy motion because it's got a hydraulic action on it. It is not electric, it's only electric on the shooting brake model, but that's absolutely fine. The thing to bear in mind obviously is there is a big load lip here, so you can notice when you step in, there's quite steep here. Look, you can see how steep this section is to get stuff involved. But there are tie hooks, which is handy for if you want to sort of strap something down, and little cubbies there. There's tie hooks at the back as well. As you can see, it's quite deep, and the opening isn't actually that bad, so you could still fit quite a bit in here. It's bigger than a 2 Series. These handles do release the rear seats, but they don't really spring forward, so you do need to go round and do them yourself, which is a little bit of a pain, but it does mean that it does really extend the amount of space that you've got. But again, I've got the problem of this is not going to go forward because of my driving position. Let's try the other side. So this seat is a bit further forward. No, so we've come across a bit of a flaw in the design there where the seats are going to interfere with the putting forward of this. Let's put this one forward. There we go. So that seat now is forward enough for this one to lay flat, and we can get an idea for the level of space in here. Obviously you're still limited by the kind of the height of this area, but it does mean that you can slide much larger objects in there. It's actually a lot bigger than you might think. It's just restricted by that gap. You do have a little bit of storage under this boot floor as well, but as you can see, this one is taken up. You've got a subwoofer in here. You do have an air compressor for your tyres and a first aid kit as well. So there's a little bit of space, but I wouldn't say a lot. It's kind of just to keep the essentials really. So then let's pack up and hit the road, and I'll tell you what I think. So out driving the CLA, I wouldn't say it's massively refined in here in terms of like noise reduction and stuff like that. I think it could have done with some acoustic paneling on the glass, potentially also it's just because of the fact that you are on relatively low profile tyres and a sporty suspension, especially on this Premium Plus model. It can still deal with vibration though, and kind of small imperfections in the road. It doesn't feel rock solid at all, which is nice. It does feel a little bit firm, this seat, but I do get a lot of support from it in all the right places, and the headrest is quite well positioned as well. And of course we do have heated seats and driver's memory adjustment on here as well, which is good because it means I can kind of set it to how I like it and be done with it. I really do like this cabin, I've got to say. It's a really nice place to sit, and coming from my Tesla, which is super minimalist, to this, you'd think is overwhelming, but everything's so well placed and well laid out, and the controls for the screens are so easy to use on the move as well. That's a massive, massive plus from me. I like the click that the indicators make on Mercs as well. It's just got this really nice high quality sound to it. Yeah, so over these speed bumps and stuff here, it's definitely not a plush ride, but it's not as firm as you might imagine it to be, being a sort of a low slung coupe style car. This one, according to the data on screen, has been averaging around 42 mpg, which I don't think is too bad really for a car of this size and weight, being powered by a relatively small engine. But of course the diesel variants will get much higher than that and give you a longer range. And the plug-in hybrid gets around 43 miles of electric range, so that's something to consider too. Right, we're about to hit a country road now. We're going to national limits, so I'm going to slow right down and see what the acceleration is like. We're currently in a normal mode, so let's put this up into sport. Let's punch it. Yeah, as you can hear, it does feel a little bit strained under load, this 1.3, but it's got an okay sound to it, and most of the noise that you hear is from behind you rather than up front, which is quite reassuring. It means that it's got that kind of sportier feel to it. It feels almost like a sports exhaust rather than anything. There we go, smashing it out of a... The gearbox is really good as well, really responsive, and the brakes definitely have a progressive feel to them. It's not quite as dynamic in terms of the steering capability, obviously, as something like a BMW 2 Series, but it's definitely going to be capable enough for your day-to-day driving, and I do like the way it feels overall. In this sportier mode, there is a bit more throttle response, which is nice, and it does feel a little bit firmer overall, but yeah, dropping it back down into comfort mode, it then just hangs the gears a little bit less. As you can see there, the systems for active braking assist can be a little bit overreactive. Like, I had plenty of space there before the car in front of me, but it alerted me quite early, which is both a good and a bad thing. This car does score really well for safety, so that's something worth considering, obviously, if you're going to be using it for your family and so on. Taking control with the manual gears, very responsive dual clutch gears, as you might expect. Definitely a little bit of input delay from the throttle response in this smaller engine car, but that is definitely alleviated on the 2-litre versions. Responsive but smooth. I wouldn't call it snappy, it's just a smooth transition. I don't know how often you'd play around with the paddles. For me personally, just leaving it in normal drive mode has been absolutely fine, and I still feel enough engagement from this chassis that I wouldn't really be too fussed about that. And like I say, even this model with only 160 horsepower still feels pretty decent. It's not fast, but the fact that you can get these ranging all the way up to 400 horsepower in the AMG version, or you can get a diesel which has a boatload more torque as well. There's so much to choose from. This being a front wheel drive model, obviously you feel it kind of pulling you rather than willing you, and it's not massively playful when you start throwing it around and trying to get the back end out, but that's probably a good thing for most drivers. It's just a nice place to be and a nice place to sit, and I think that's the most important thing for a lot of people. Right, I'm giving it some around this roundabout now, seeing if it will come unstuck on me. And there's not really much in the way of understeer, to be honest. It feels pretty good. It's definitely not BMW good, but it feels nice, and you can sense what's going on with the road through the steering as well. It doesn't feel too heavily electrically assisted, and I really was expecting this engine to feel quite gutless, but it's got enough pull in it up to safe speeds that I wouldn't be too concerned about that if you're going for one of the lower end cars. I think with the tweaks that they make to the AMG variants of this car, it could be a very capable machine indeed. When I spoke to the owner of this car, he's probably had the car about a month now, and I said, is there anything really that you have any major complaints of? And the only thing he could really think of was that the seats are firm. And yes, he's right, but I think you'd only really notice that after a few hours of driving. Of course, if you were thinking with your head rather than your heart, you might get something a little bit more practical. Instead of the CLA Coupe, you might get a shooting brake, you might get a normal A-Class hatchback, or you might indeed go for something like a used C-Class to get that little bit of space. But I think this is a nice option because of how stylish it is, the fact that it is relatively affordable, and the fact that there are so many engine choices from really frugal and small up to monstrous, and you kind of know what you're getting as well. Like, there wasn't really many option packs on these, So you know if you're going to get a premium or a premium plus, it's going to come with most, if not all, of the kit. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to light your world on fire in terms of handling and chuckability, but most people don't really care about that stuff, you know? Like, those driving enthusiasts and purists, they're going to get like a 6-cylinder BMW that's rear-wheel drive, and this isn't that, no, but this does the day-to-day stuff really, really nicely. It's a shame that some of the materials are a little bit nasty, but considering how cheap you can get these now and the fact that there are such good finance deals, I really don't think it's that much of a deal breaker. It is just so much posher in here than something like an equivalent Audi, even though the quality is better in that. Volkswagen Arteon, like, there's a few alternatives that you could probably look into, but this is going to be the one that impresses your mates the most. And like I said, if you are looking for one of these, please do check out my sponsors, Players Cars. I don't get paid to say how good they are. They do give me commission, yes, for full transparency, but I just had such a great experience with them, and so did Tate, and this car is absolutely immaculate. This was an ex-demo that they sourced for him, so it had relatively no miles on it, and also it's got every single box ticked as well, which make it a really nice car in really nice shape indeed. And also they've got plenty of these in stock all the time, so they'll probably have one to your taste and to your budget too. But yeah, count me impressed with the CLA, to be fair. I got in this today expecting it to be a little bit too slow, being a CLA 200, and I also expected it to be a little bit cramped inside, which actually I feel like it's quite spacious for what it is, and I expected the overall feel of it to be too firm and too harsh for my taste. But what I've actually found is that it's a little bit more practical than I anticipated, despite the lack of rear headroom. And I think that actually living with this day to day would be an absolute pleasure. So there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to Tay for lending me the car today. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments, the likes, the subscribers. It really does help. It goes such a long way you don't even realise. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.